recorded, if that's all right.
For now, messages are only available on selected teams. It doesn't say that it's been recorded, but I'll take your word for it.
Oh, it is. So
Recording and transcription. Yes, sorry,
yeah,
it's come up.
Flashed up.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just turn off the transcript. So I'm going to start with just like a say hello section and then move on to the questions, if that's all right.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so just a moment. Here we go. Good morning, Tom.
Sorry, Neil.
Oh, good morning, James. I'm on a call with somebody. We're just filming, so I won't be long. I don't think. I'll be with you soon. That's our admin worker just arriving, James.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, David. I'm sitting here with David Smith, who's the Chief Officer of 15 Square, which is an organisation based in. Do you want to take over here, David? Do you want to tell us about?
We're based in Stone in Staffordshire. We are an international organisation, although we're based in the UK. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about what we do?
Please, if you would.
Yeah, and how it was founded. Right. The organisation was founded in 1994 when a doctor read an article about foreskin restoration that was published in America. And there were several groups in America. And he put a notice in a letter in the Independent saying that he thought that there may be a need for an organisation here, and if anybody was interested, would they contact him? He'd been circumcised in childhood and had issues with it. And 19 men met in a flat in London, and not one had spoken to anybody about how they felt about circumcision. And they knew if they did, they'd be ridiculed. And from there, it was formed as an organisation, and it became a charity in 1998. But when it first started, nobody would give us publicity. We could not get any publicity whatsoever. And the first thing we got was 3 minutes on a Radio 4 programme called The Locker Room. And there was a urologist from Manchester, actually, from Stepping Hill Hospital.
Right.
And the interviewer was talking about restoration and that it was possible by skin expansion. And they asked him what he thought. And he said, oh, if this catches on, it will be pandering to a lot of potentially inadequate people. That was the first reaction from the medical profession.
Goodness me.
It was actually Jeremy Paxman who really made us. There was an interview with our chairman, and Jeremy Paxman asked all the right questions. He was absolutely fantastic. And we really sort of motored from there. It was... yeah, I mean, we've gone on, actually, although we were dealing with circumcision and the trauma and the damage, we were very quickly approached by men who'd still got their foreskins. They'd probably got phimosis, and they knew if they went to the doctor that they'd just be told, oh, we'll just cut it off and you'll have no further problem with it. Some of them had indeed gone to their doctors and were told, yes, a circumcision is the only cure. So we started to get inquiries from men with phimosis, and that is now our biggest, as the circumcision rate's going down, so there are fewer circumcised men and more intact men with phimosis. That is our biggest inquiry database now.
So in what ways does circumcision cause damage and harm, did you say, to men? How would you summarise that?
Yeah.
Problems and harm to men.
You're right. We have... well, there's impaired gland sensation, because obviously when the foreskin's a protection for the glands, so if you lose your foreskin, then the glands forms a layer over it called keratin, keratinization it's called, and that dulls gland sensation. We have a lot with scarring. Sometimes there's too much skin removed and men get painful erections. There's the skin bridges sometimes. Pain during sex, and the psychological issues are quite a lot of men show that show a lot of psychological damage, because obviously they know they're different and they feel different to a man with a foreskin. And also there's been a lot of research, and the research has shown that a lot of a body part in the way that a mastectomy or a hysterectomy has an impact on a woman, the same thing can happen to men. There's an impact on sexual confidence and sexual functioning. I mean, we had one guy, his first sexual experience was with a woman who had experience with an intact man. And she said, well, I've seen one before, but it's got no moving parts. What do I do with it? And that was his last sexual experience. And there's a sense of grieving. They feel, you know, they feel that the decision was taken by others, and, you know, that they had no say in it. And it's rarely based on fully informed consent. Right.
So is it an issue around genital autonomy? There's a move for that, is there not? There's a Genital Autonomy Day, I think, that's been put forward, an international one, and so on.
Day of Genital Autonomy. It's a big event based in Cologne. It's 12 years ago. I've been to 7 so far. I couldn't go during the pandemic, so it was, but it went online, and it's now a mixture of online and in person, and it's a fantastic event. Meets a lot of colleagues from around the world, and there was a Cologne ruling in Cologne in 12 years ago, and a 4-year-old boy almost bled to death from a non-therapeutic circumcision, and it came before the court. Was this legal? And it has never been tested before. And the judge said, yes, it's. I've looked at the evidence, and it is not technically legal. So we won't prosecute any from, you know, past ones, but going forward we will. This caused quite a lot of issues in Germany, because obviously Germany, with their you know, the war and the Holocaust. Angela Merkel immediately said we can't have this, so they pushed a law through to actually legalize it. And the worldwide day
stuff here, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the worldwide day of genital autonomy commemorates that day. Right. And so on the 7th of May, there's a march in Cologne, and then there's speeches in the market square. And it's online. You can see them all online. I mean, it's a really great event. It's a network. You get people from all over the world coming, and people send their presentations in. They're digitally enhanced, and it's all online. So but it's also it joins FGM campaigners and transgender. It's a really good event. I'm one of the organisers, actually.
It's odd. You think it would be just a basic human rights issue that you have control over your body, and you need to make an informed decision about circumcision when you are aware enough to do so. That seems to me to be just a matter of fact thing. I mean, why do you think it's got this far? I mean, historically, I suppose there's a religious and cultural aspect to it, but that's not the case in somewhere like America, is it? It's just become a big money spinner, hasn't it?
It's a big money spinner, and it's promoted. I mean, if you have a baby boy in a hospital in America, you're given the circumcision forms to sign straight away, and the baby's usually circumcised before it leaves the hospital. Right. So yeah, it's quite. I mean, in this country, it started in the UK. It's really fell out of fashion in following the formation of the health service. In 1948, when doctors weren't paid, you know, they were salaried, so there's no need to do it. They weren't going to make any money out of it. Right. So it's only offered in now. It's not on the NHS for non-therapeutic reasons, but it's more often than not still offered as the first course of treatment, which is why we have a lot of queries, because, you know, oh, I've got phimosis. Very often the doctor won't examine them. They'll just put them straight down for circumcision. Right. And that still happens. And our inquiries, you wouldn't believe some of the inquiries.
So But could you just tell us, for the benefit of the viewers at home, what phimosis is?
Phimosis is tightening of the foreskin. It's when it won't retract, and there are several degrees of phimosis. There's some where it will retract when it's flaccid, but not when it's erect. Some it won't retract at all. And there are alternatives, but they're very rarely practiced. I mean, even for the worst, even for one that's totally non-retractable, there is an operation called a preputioplasty, which where the skin is just, there's a number of little notches made, and then they're opened out and sewn across, and so it makes it retractable, but there's the sort of little grooves in the, but you've still got your foreskin and you've still got all the nerve endings. Right. In 1996, there was a Canadian pathologist called John Taylor, and he did, because they said that the foreskin served no purpose, but he found that there's a ridge band. It's now known as the Taylor's ridge band, and it's just on the inside of the foreskin, which is mucosal tissue, and that's got a lot of nerve endings which control the control ejaculation. They are the nerve endings are quite essential, and they're always lost to a circumcision, even if it's a fairly minor one.
Yeah. In terms of things serving no purpose, there are any number of things on the human body that actually serve no purpose anymore, but we don't just whip them off because of that, do we? So that just seems like a bad excuse to me.
Yes.
Taking away somebody's rights around their body and their genital autonomy. What do your detractors say? I mean, I imagine there's the response usually is, if you ban this, it will just go underground and it will become more dangerous. Is that the sort of thing people say when you put forward your? We're
not calling for a ban.
No?
What we're calling for is informed consent. Right. We're trying to say, if there's a problem like anything else, it should be treated properly. It should be treated conservatively and only amputated when there is a disease called lichen sclerosis, which is quite nasty, and that's women get that as well. That's treated with a topical steroid, very potent topical steroid, but in some cases, it affects the foreskin so much that it has to go. But it's quite rare, and it's. But what we're saying is it's informed consent. The person who has the foreskin should have a right to say what happens. Strangely enough, there's a lot of organisations. We work with a lovely organisation called Brachim, and that's an organisation within Judaism, and they are calling for circumcision to be stopped, basically, and they are helping Jewish families who want to keep their children whole. There was a Jewish filmmaker made a film in 1995 or 6. I helped him with it. His name was Victor Schoenfeld, and it was the first groundbreaking documentary. It was called "It's a Boy," and it went on Channel 4. And I think it was the first in the history of Channel 4 that went out without a break. And we were a very new organisation, and it gave our contact details in the end, and we were bombarded with people. But that is a very, very powerful documentary. It shows they filmed the bris, a Jewish circumcision on an 8-day-old baby. The father wasn't Jewish, the mother was, and so that it became obvious that it was going wrong, and you saw the father sitting it panned to the father sitting a few days later outside the intensive care unit, tears streaming down his face. He didn't know whether his son was going to live or die. It was a really, really powerful documentary, and that's really what launched us in a way, because that gave us the publicity that we didn't have.
So it's a live issue. It's a live issue. It's not going away here any day soon. So we do need to get men talking about this in Manchester.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's probably something some man somewhere in Manchester is sitting there worrying about, at least one. So we really need to start talking about it. I mean, how do you think Healthwatch would be able to encourage men, besides this interview and besides putting it out there? Right. How can we get men talking about this issue?
Before we just mention that, I want to mention Alex Hardy. And a lot of the inquiries we get, you were talking about the damage, are from men, and it differs. Those that had it done before puberty, it's like being born colourblind. You think what you've got is full sight. You don't know a difference because you've never experienced it.
Yeah.
So those men usually have psychological issues. They may have physical issues, like they've lost a frenulum or something, but more often than not, it's psychological because they look and they feel different. The problem comes when they have it after puberty. Usually it's phimosis, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor says a quick circumcision. Are there any downsides to it? No. They have the operation, and then they are absolutely devastated because they've gone from having full sight to being colourblind. One of the most powerful presentations that's on our website is by Leslie Roberts. Leslie Roberts' son, Alex Hardy, had a circumcision at 21. He got phimosis. He had the circumcision. They said, "No, there's no. It's fine. We're just a circumcision." 2 years later, he could no longer live with the damage and took his own life. I've had 4 of our service users have taken their own lives. With Alex's case, he wrote a very, very detailed suicide note on how he was feeling. And he said to his mother, "I want this to stop others having the same fate." And Leslie's written a book, A is for Alex. So but I was there when she read the note, and in one of our AGMs, I was facing the audience, and there wasn't one person in that audience without tears rolling down their face. It was so poignant. So, it's not a panacea. It is a damaging procedure. So that I sort of wanted to mention that first. Yeah. So sorry, you were saying.
I was saying, how would we get men in Manchester talking about this issue? So you throw me there because that's such a terrible story, isn't it?
Yes.
How would we get men talking about this in Manchester? I'm a great believer if we start talking about something, then we'll get to the solution, and we start blowing it out the water. And we help men arrive at a better place than they're at just now. So besides us putting this video out there, how would you describe the best ways for us to get men talking and encourage them to go to their GP or to go to somebody about this?
Yeah, we have, we're a membership charity, and we rely on the membership really to support us, apart from people dying and leaving us money. And also, being a member means that you have to sign up to our code of conduct, basically, because, we've had people who've been quite argumentative in the past, and it puts men off. So it creates a safe haven. And we have meetings about every 6 weeks, and we call them Together Not Alone. Sometimes it gives men an opportunity to talk through. It's just an open forum. We've now started to have guest speakers to start with. We had a guy from the National Secular Society who was talking about their initiative. We've also got an American guy. They've just done an absolutely wonderful survey. They've done a survey of men who've restored, and the questionnaire, I've got some statistics that I can give you, but that will actually shock you. And we also have it's a forum, Discord server, and one of our team one of our volunteers does a fortnightly Discord peer support meeting. It just gets, but men quite even on some of the Together Not Alone, they're very loath to come on to them, and sometimes on the first one I suggest they just listen and just go into darkness, and they usually become some of the most vocal afterwards.
Vocal people. So I mean, and I take it that's an online forum that you do through your website, through joining up in the membership.
Yes,
and so on. So
it's only it costs £3 a month. It's right. Less than a cup of coffee.
Right, and the website is 15 square, number 15 square.
www.15square.org.uk. If you're wondering why we call 15 square, that's the area in square inches of the average foreskin that's lost to circumcision. It's the size of a £10 note.
Goodness. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
well, that's interesting.
yeah.
Okay. So we talked about the damage that is done to men. We've talked about how men can get support about this. What would you say are the greatest barriers facing men when it comes to genital autonomy then? What are the barriers put in place?
The barriers are really, it's talking about it because there's so much opposition. It's getting less. I mean, it's taken 20 years for us to raise this conversation, but it's opening up now. So much so that we're now working with Alderhay Hospital in Liverpool. In last year, they said, I've got the quote here, is the NHS carrying out thousands of unnecessary circumcisions on teenage boys? And the new report showed irreversible surgery is carried out 10,000 times per year. And they say less invasive measures should be sought. And they claim that more than half of annual circumcisions were unnecessary. So that's, you know, the statistics are getting out there.
Yeah.
But the barriers, I think if I can, this will answer some of your questions actually. It's come out this year, it's fairly new, and it's one of my American colleagues, and it's been published in the Journal of Impotence Research, and it's the insight into the motivations and challengings and the experiences with medical and mental health professionals of foreskin restorers. Some of the statistics are in the survey were incredible. It said that 25% of respondents were aware by age 12 of the harms they attributed to circumcision. 43% of respondents became aware of restoration after stumbling across it on the internet. 16% began restoration before the age of 19. Before starting restoration, 65% reported feelings of circumcision-related dissatisfaction or distress. And 22% reported engaging in sexually compulsive behaviour as a coping mechanism. So that's one. But the interesting survey was that only 13% of respondents had sought help from a medical or mental health professional.
Really?
50% of those who sought no help believed the professional would not be knowledgeable or supportive. Of those who sought professional help, 25% reported the professionals were unsympathetic, dismissive, or ridiculing. 69% believe professionals are insufficiently aware of or compassionate towards circumcision sufferers, foreskin restorers. 64% believe professionals are unaware of foreskin anatomy or circumcision harm. 85% believe that medical and mental health professionals should receive special training on the issue of circumcision distress and foreskin restoration. 87% would recommend foreskin restoration, and there were over 60 birth countries representative. So most respondents reported being born into Christian, Jewish or Muslim families. However, significantly fewer still identified with those religions.
So it's predominantly unnecessary, and most of us don't want it anyway.
Yeah, but I think that's what we are saying, you know. Yeah. I mean, we're aware there's a lot of people, they're circumcised, they have no issue with it, they live it perfectly happily. But we help those who are unhappy and don't like it. So that's a statistic as anybody seeking help. This is why men are reluctant, and I think those statistics speak for themselves. So what we say is that we've got a graph that I can show you, and it's called the circular logic of circumcision. So the circular logic is that men complain of unexpected consequences they were not warned about. Number two, medical professionals deny their issues as the procedure is known to be safe. 3, as the procedure is considered safe, complaints can be disregarded. 4, as there are no reliable records of complaints or complications, research can't be conducted. So consequently, men are not warned about complications following circumcision due to lack of research. And it goes back again. So
I'm very concerned that complaints cannot be upheld, did you say? Because it's considered safe. I think that would be...
they're dismissed very often. They're not taken seriously.
I'd like to do some further investigation into that as a health watch. That's very concerning. That's deeply concerning, actually.
Yeah. So what we're saying, we need, and we had a meeting with the GMC Ethics Committee in 2012, and I can send you a copy of the agenda. And it took 6 years to get the meetings, and we were allowed an hour. And I will send you the minutes. We said that they needed evidence, basically, and I spent 2 weeks compiling the evidence, and you can tell 12 years ago it cost me £8 to send it by post. I also sent it by email. It was agreed that where there was a circumcision performed, it should be recorded. It should be recorded where, when, how, and by whom. They agreed that was necessary, but as far as I know, that's not implemented. Quite often they're not recorded. There's no reliable statistics of how many circumcisions are carried out. So I sent all this by recorded delivery. I got signatures. I was not getting a response from the GMC. 6 months later, I did a Freedom of Information Act to say what correspondence was on it. There was absolutely nothing. They said they'd never received our documentation. So I sent them the recorded delivery, and they said, yes, they found it. But that was the last they sent, so they just totally ignored it. They're not interested.
So the GMC haven't acted upon the breadth of evidence you sent into them and the request for them to do something about it. Is that something else we should be picking up as a health watch?
That I think you'll find that enlightening. I mean, that was 11 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's yeah.
So the barriers are right there, integrated into the system itself. There's barriers everywhere, really, for men to try and get something done about this. So it sounds like it's going to fall to outside the NHS and to organisations such as yours and to Healthwatch too, to try and get some movement on this.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to taking that up.
Good. Well, happy to work with you, on this.
Smashing. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to come down to Stone and spend a day with us, you're very welcome. Oh,
yeah. I'd love to. I'll tell you what, shall I stop recording now and then we can have a chat?
Yeah.
How does that sound? Unless there's anything else, we could just splice things in. It's all right. We can edit things out.
Okay. Well, I've given you details about our meetings, haven't I?
Yes. About the talk it through. Sorry, what was it now?
Together, not alone.
Together, not alone. Yes. We'll promote that. We'll put that in as a still in the interview and everything. I'll stop recording now. So it's a bit.
Okay.
Stop recording. Stop recording.